Hi guys, back again, and today we're going to be looking at this step sequencer. We've had a couple of requests in the past to kind of go over the basic features of the step sequencer, so I thought that we'd take a little moment today and just get anyone who isn't familiar, and just to go over some of the basic features. So what we're starting off with today is a very small project, and I want to add a very basic beat within Session Drummer, and I want to add it very quickly and easily, and the step sequencer is a perfect tool to do this. It allows you to add beats in on the fly very quickly and just get a basic rough idea of the sound that you want or the rhythm that you want. This of course isn't limited to Session Drummer. Any synth that you open up and has the step sequencer button at the top right can be used within the step sequencer. So it is by no means limited to Session Drummer, but I thought that we'd start off with a beat, as that is kind of the simplest form to use within the step sequencer, because you can visually see each beat indicated by the steps here. Whereas we get into synths and stuff, you can drag out a note and it's not as easy to visually see. So I thought that we'd start off with Session Drummer. So here we have a very basic beat that I started a while ago, and I'm going to break down exactly how it is you can create beats, level them, add new sounds into the rows here, and what the beats and steps buttons mean. So let's get started. Okay, so basically what we have on the left hand side here are the different sounds within the specific instrument that you've loaded up within the step sequencer. So for instance, we've of course loaded up Session Drummer, so we have all the associated sounds within Session Drummer on the left hand side. Now I've got a load more because I added a load more, but we can, if we started off with, I think we started off with around that many, say. Now we can add more. What you'll find is if you have a sound selected, for instance, and you can preview each sound by left clicking in the row, just like that. And if we have one of these highlighted and we go up here to the insert row button, what that will do is just simply copy the row that you have highlighted. And of course, clicking the delete row will delete that. But if you come up here to the very top row and select that one and click the add row, what it will do is actually add the next row up. So we're actually adding more sounds that are associated with our Session Drummer or with any synth that you have loaded. So that's how you add more sounds, and of course how you delete them. So be cautious of what row you have highlighted before you go clicking the insert row, because you may find that you just add multiple versions of the same sound if you have any of the other rows selected. Okay, so to add a sound, as you can probably already see, you come up here to what are known as steps, and you simply click in the steps and it will add that sound to that step. And these steps are conformed to the project tempo that you have, and of course the time signature that you're working with. So for instance, we are working in 4/4, and we have a project tempo of 90 BPM, and this step sequencer will conform to those rules. Now of course we have 4 bars here, and if you're working to a click track, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 in the project tempo, and these beats here are the beats in between each hit of the click track. And let's demonstrate this so you get a better idea. Have all these selected. If you have the tempo going 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have all these selected, it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, such as like that. So if I click the play metronome during playback and all these selected, you'll get an idea. So let's have a listen. But this of course can be changed. Now this here, these steps can be changed. So for instance, we have 4 steps for every bar. So, and we can change that. We can have 5 steps for every bar. So now if we had all these selected, it would sound like this. Now you'll notice that the project tempo hasn't changed. It's still going 1, 2, 3, 4. But what we've got now is kind of an odd number of steps between each beat. And it's creating a kind of off pattern sound. So although we're in 4/4, which is a very standard rhythm, we can still make the beat that we are creating sound kind of very swing and offbeat without actually changing the project tempo. So it opens up kind of all kinds of possibilities creatively. So those are the steps, and you can add as many as you want. And you'll often find that if you're working with drums and you're trying to get a specific rhythm, if you can't quite fit a certain rhythm to the tempo that you've got set with only 4 steps for each bar, try adding a couple more steps. Try and keep it an even number if you want the sound to be a standard rhythm. So if you're in 4/4 and you want to keep it 4/4, keep the steps an even number, and then it will tend to stick to the standard 4/4 time signature that you have selected. If you go odd numbers, it'll start sounding a bit swingy and a bit looser, which is nice. It depends on what you want. But if you want a standard rhythm, keep to even numbers. So if you're trying to get a specific rhythm and you can't quite fit it in, add a couple more steps and see if that helps, because it allows you to add, obviously, more beats within the bar. So you can get a faster double kick, if that's what you're looking for. If you're working with metal, you can get a faster kick drum going, for instance. So there's all kinds of possibilities there. We have our beats, and that just simply adds another section for you to continue on the rhythm that you are creating. So if I had a rhythm here going and I wanted to extend it and maybe alter the second section of this rhythm, I could do so. So if I wanted bars 1 to 4 to be like this, but then bars 5 to 8 I wanted slightly differently, I could go ahead and do so. Incidentally, if you have added a beat to a step, such as this, and you want to delete it, you simply right-click on the step to delete it. Next to each row, you'll find this little button here, and if you open it up, it adds a few more features for you to mess around with. What we have here, along the bottom of each of the steps, is the velocity. Now, this is obviously the volume, and these can be altered by left-clicking inside the volume meter and simply choosing the velocity that you want. An easy way to do it, if you want to quickly create velocities across multiple steps, simply left-click and drag along, and it will do all of them. And this actually is great if you want a very natural sounding, very natural velocity. So for instance, if you have something on a ride and you want not every hit to be exactly the same volume, because that can kind of sound mechanic and computer made, because of course if someone is naturally hitting the ride cymbal, they're not going to hit it exactly the same every time. So this way you can actually just drag, and you can just slightly lower a couple as you're going along, and your actual natural hand movements will not make every single one perfect anyway. And that's just a great, very quick way of adding some a human touch to an otherwise electronically made sound. So there's that, and of course we have along the left here, we have some other settings. So we have a velocity meter for this an overall velocity meter for this specific sound. We have the duration, we have swing, and what this is going to do is For each step, it'll just slightly make that beat sound slightly off or slightly tighter depending on your swing level here. So you can make it sound a bit looser if if that's the kind of style that you're looking for. Double click to reset. We have our time offset, and we have a flam, which kind of if you're working with a snare and it's a flam, it'll kind of make it sound as if the stick is vibrating off the skin a little more. You can also do this by double clicking on each step, and when you've got a line through it there, it does the same thing. It kind of adds a flam on that specific step, whereas this is overall for every step. Like I said, this isn't limited to session drummer, and I do actually find myself using the step sequencer to create very quick sounds or rhythms with probably synths that wouldn't you shouldn't normally use it with. For instance, I love using the step sequencer with the Zeta synth. You do get into some issues maybe if you have a sequence. For instance, if you have a sound on Zeta that when you have a key that's held, it plays out a sequence. You do come into some issues there because sometimes in the step sequencer, if you add a note here, for instance, and the specific sound that you're using is a sequence, and you add a note there, it won't play out the sequence. This will not represent a sequence. It'll only represent one, tiny sound within the sound that you have loaded up in Zeta. This isn't always the case, but don't assume that if you have Zeta loaded and a sequence loaded, that creating a step here will make that sound play out the sequence, because it doesn't. And also, if you do multiples thinking that will do it, it won't. It will just repeat the same sound over and over and over and over again. It won't play out the sequence, which of course can be annoying. But if you're using a sound that isn't a sequence, it's great to really quickly and visually see a pattern, because sometimes if you're not very familiar with the piano roll view, which is a much more advanced version really of the step sequencer, having a visual pattern that you can see can be very handy and beneficial for those people who concentrate mainly on the visual aspect of creating music rather than relying completely on hearing it. And of course, it can be expanded on, because of course now all we'd have to do to change the step sequencer to a piano roll is to left click on the edge of your loop and click it to the staff view or the piano roll or anything like that, and it can be expanded upon. So you're not limited. If you create something in the step sequencer, you're not limited to only using the step sequencer because that's what you loaded up. You can load it into the piano roll later on if you needed to, like this, and then add much more complex rhythms on top. So I think I will expand on this maybe next week, maybe next Tuesday, and go into some more of the advanced features of the step sequencer, because I only really wanted to highlight the basics, because I've had a couple of questions asking how to use it, and I know a lot of this can be actually found on the YouTube, on the Cakewalk website, on their Cake TV page. But if you're not familiar with the Cakewalk website, and you were hoping that I would do one, well, here it is. It's very basic, and it's only really an entry level, but I will expand on it if you want to. Please leave me a comment if you want me to expand on this, or indeed leave a comment asking me to do another tutorial on a different subject that I will do next Tuesday. This Friday we have another 2-minute Sonar X2 and 2-minute video coming up. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and please comment and subscribe, and I will see you very, very soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.